Good morning. I wanted to share with you just a brief story. I had what I call last child in the woods moment recently. I have been mentoring children through Big Brothers Big Sisters for the past 3 years, an exceptional experience I would recommend to anyone. And this is one of my kids, Kenyon Carter, his first time at the ocean. And as you can tell, he takes the bull by the horns. We had a great day one day playing outside, and I was teaching him how to ride a bike. And at the end of the day, just out of the blue, he says to me, "You know, this is the longest amount of time I've ever gone without watching television." And I thought, man, what we're working on is really real. When I read Last Child in the Woods several years ago, it was a watershed moment for me personally and professionally, as I'm sure for many of you. Louv gave meaning and importance to the way many of us grew up in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and how things had changed in virtually one generation with the advent of the internet. And The Last Child in the Woods was read by virtually most of the employees in the Maryland Park Service shortly after it came out, and by park rangers across the country in America's state parks. And its message became a wide topic of conversation amongst park rangers. It made us think about the new challenges and barriers that were keeping kids out of the woods and by association out of their state parks, and inspired state park employees to recommit to an age-old promise that had been a part of our mission for over 100 years, and that was, of course, connecting children with nature. So what I'd like to do today is just briefly share with you some of the efforts that we have made in Maryland and is ongoing in America's state parks across the country, both big and small, to take a fresh look and reinvent the way we connect children and nature. We touch 10.7 million visitors in Maryland in 66 state parks, and the vast majority of them are families. It's our bread and butter. So we thought about issues associated with the Children in Nature movement, and we put fresh eyes on our family-friendly experience, our recreation facilities, our settings, our programs, and made some changes over the past several years to better support families. The first thing we did is we set as a goal to connect families with park rangers. The park ranger today wears many hats to keep the operation of a park running smoothly, and we knew we needed rangers, at least seasonally, who could dedicate their time fully to interpretation and education and working with children. And these positions, unfortunately, had been reduced significantly over the years due to budget cuts. So we collectively decided to redirect our resources, no matter how limited, to hire at least one seasonal park ranger naturalist in every state park. And many state parks did more than that. It was just too important to let go of. The park ranger is the iconic symbol of state parks. I mean, how many of us wanted to be a park ranger when we grew up at some point in our lives? And it's the ultimate adult nature mentor, really, that can help facilitate discovery and connecting families to nature. So we got the park rangers, naturalists, back in the parks. And the second thing we realized we needed to do was we needed a place, a base of operations where the kids could find the park ranger. We had no money for fancy nature centers, so we repurposed existing buildings like this one at Patapsco, just a cement block thing that had a bunch of junk in it. And with the talent of our staff and our volunteers and our youth corps, we redeveloped it into this fun, homegrown, kid speed. We almost are a little embarrassed to call it a nature center. It's more like a nature nook. And we painted the walls and we built the furniture, largely with the existing resources. And we looked for buildings that were near other things, like in this case, a playground, and then we built the space around it, a nature area with a rain barrel and rain garden and a duck goose area. And our experience has been that we don't always need these expensive nature centers with fancy indoor environments. There's certainly a place for those, But if we are talking about connecting children to nature, then these smaller scale settings provide the intimacy that appeals to children and serves even more as gateways to the outdoors. Oops. They serve as places to meet a naturalist, borrow a pair of binoculars, touch feathers, turtle shells, snake skins, and they're always changing. Anytime I go into this little nature nook, it's not the same the last time I was there because the naturalist found something cool or redesigned an exhibit. And in the coming year, the governor has funded the development of 8 new playgrounds that are more state-of-the-art nature themed to go along with our nature nooks and the kid-friendly trails, by the way, that we have also built in conjunction with these spaces. We also took to heart the message that parents, adults, don't always know what to do with kids in the outdoors these days. And let's face it, kids get bored pretty quickly. So the staff adopted a family program developed by Connecticut State Parks, and we called it Park Quest. It's a free, self-guided, basically giant scavenger hunt, sort of geocache adventure race, designed to give kids and adults the tools, instructions that many of them need to play together in the outdoors. Families get a passport for free entry into a state park, post their stories and pictures on the Park Quest Facebook page, and qualify for an end-of-summer event. A lot of my pictures that I'm using are from our Facebook page. There are also bonus quests to get those teens that are so tough to get in the outdoors and challenge them as part of the Park Quest. And the program has gone beyond our expectations. I see Steve McCoy out there. He's our organizer this year. We are bringing families together, getting them outside, doing activities they have never done before in places they have never been, and connecting them to their state parks and the state park rangers. Last year, the program's quota of 1,000 Quester teams filled in about 24 hours. So if you want to do Park Quest, it's practically a cult-like following now. If you want to do Park Quest, registration opens May 14th, right? And you can find it easily on our website. Now, something that's still under development that I wanted to unveil today is a first-time camper program. Maryland State Parks are by far the largest providers of camping. We have over 2,500 campsites, 300 cabins. We touch the lives of more than 750,000 campers every year. And I'll bet we have some campers in the room today. I'd be disappointed if we didn't. In our view, we need to talk more about camping when it comes to children and nature, and Mel alluded to it. Not every child will have the opportunity to play every day in a natural area near their home. And that's where camping can come in, because it sort of speeds the clock. I've seen it myself with the children that I work with in Big Brothers Big Sisters and another program I'm going to talk about, where in a very short period of time, due to intense exposure, it increases their comfort level and joy about the outdoors. Because children instinctively love tents, right? And they love campfires. And one of our greatest challenges, however, is that a lot of families there's been a severing of the tradition of camping. And if your parents don't camp, then the kids don't camp. So America's state park systems across the country are launching these first-time camper programs. And we are joining with the North Face and launching our first program June 2nd at Patapsco for Wounded Warrior families. The North Face is donating the equipment, and the way we're toying with the idea is to keep it sustainable for us from a staff support standpoint, is asking our current repeat, veteran campers, hey, bring out some novices, bring your friends, bring your neighbors, bring your nieces and nephews who have never been camping, and we'll provide the equipment they need through the North Face donation and maybe throw in some other discounts and prizes. So stay tuned on that for more developments. So those are some of the key efforts we are making to transform our traditional services to better support families and children. But I'd also like to just briefly touch on 2 other programs in state parks, and the first is environmental education in state parks. State parks have always been places of learning, of important ideas, and models for living in harmony with nature. And we know that environmental education is most valuable when it includes an outdoor experience. And several of our state parks have had relatively long-standing EE programs, Tuckahoe, Rocky Gap, Assateague, Deep Creek Lake, and we reach 50,000 students a year in coordination with other nonprofits and county school systems. But with the support of DNR's Environmental Conservation Education Program, and I know you're going to hear from Britt Slattery later, we have been collaborating with other EE providers to support the state's new environmental literacy program. We're strategically working to target grade levels in conjunction with other EE providers to get kids outside as part of that environmental education experience. Because there's no question that environmental literacy is one of the critical outcomes of the Children in Nature movement, ensuring that current and future generations not only care, but that they have the knowledge and skills that they will need to successfully be the stewards of the earth with all of the tremendous challenges that we have ahead. The second program I'd like to just mention and highlight is our Conservation Jobs Corps, or CJC. As park rangers, one of our greatest challenges, and Mel touched on this as well, is reaching those youth who have the very least access to nature. This is one of our great moral responsibilities as public servants. And to connect these children to nature, however, requires more resources and more partnerships. But with funding support from Governor O'Malley in 2008, Maryland State Parks entered the world of nonprofit and urban advocates, social service agencies, foster care, and juvenile justice. With the help of partners like the Parks and People Foundation, which I know you're going to hear from later, we learned how state parks can bring nature to the equation to connect these children to the outdoors, save their lives, and enrich their lives. So each summer, State Parks employs 360 at-risk youth for 6 weeks working in state parks in crews, planting trees, building trails, beautifying their state parks, and enhancing their sustainability. And not only does the CJC program provide them with structure, their first job experience, adult mentors, job skills, and put money in their pockets, that's important, right? It also connects children to nature. We take them camping, hiking, fishing, even rafting, and connect these children to their state parks and their park rangers. And at graduation at North Point State Park, the pride that they feel in their park at the end of the summer is as great as our own. And there's not a dry eye in the house at the end of the day. The Children in Nature movement gave critical meaning to something most of us took for granted, our unstructured childhood spent playing outside, yours truly included. I firmly believe, however, that the foundation for our connection to nature is out there. Caring about plants and animals is developed in personal experiences and is allowed to blossom through the mentoring of an adult. And I believe that we need to allow each child to make that connection at a personal level. How this happened in each of us, how we can recreate it, how we can improve upon it today, and how we can make sure that no child is left inside is what this movement is all about. And the men and women of America's state parks, some of whom are with you today, are proud to be a partner in that movement. It is truly one of the greatest humanitarian gifts we can give to the next generation, and it is one of the most important investments that we can make in the conservation of the earth. Thank you for listening.